while Joe Biden was in Japan on May 24th for a four-way security meeting and close discussions with the Japanese Prime Minister. Chinese and Russian warplanes tried to fly over them. Both the Chinese and Russian defense ministries confirmed that they sent a total of 6 bombers in formation around the Sea of Japan and the East China Sea on May 24th for a joint military exercise, flying a total of approximately 13 hours. In the military exercise, not only did they intrude into South Korea's air defense identification zone several times, but also once came quite close to Japan's airspace. Although both the Chinese and Russian defense ministries issued statements emphasizing that no one was targeted, the timing of this was all too sensitive. The day before, on May 23rd, Biden told a press conference in Tokyo that the U.S. would intervene militarily if the CCP invaded Taiwan. This statement was one of the strongest and most public support for Taiwan from the U.S. in decades.
Or even in some cases just exposed. You didn't want to get involved in the Ukraine conflict militarily for obvious reasons. Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes.
You are?
That's the commitment we made. That's the commitment we made. We are not, look, here's the situation. We agree with a one China policy. We signed on to it, and all the attendant agreements made from there. But the idea that it can be taken by force, just taken by force, is just not appropriate. It will dislocate the entire region and be another action similar to what happened in Ukraine.
We're a recession.
While Washington is required by law to provide Taiwan with the means to defend itself, it has long followed a policy of strategic ambiguity on whether it would intervene militarily to protect Taiwan in the event of a CCP attack. After Biden made the remark in Tokyo, a White House official later said there was no change in policy toward Taiwan, a point reiterated by Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin at a Pentagon briefing.
Courtney, as the President said, our one China policy has not changed. He reiterated that policy in our commitment to peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. He also highlighted our commitment under the Taiwan Relations Act to help provide Taiwan the means to defend itself. So again, our policy has not changed.
But Beijing has clearly felt the pressure and immediately took action to show its anger. The Chinese side expresses strong dissatisfaction with and resolute opposition to relevant words of the U.S. side. Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. The Taiwan question is purely an internal matter of China, one which brooks no external interference. There is no room for compromise or concessions when it comes to China's core interests of national sovereignty and territorial integrity. No one should underestimate the resolve, the will, and the ability of the Chinese people to defend their national sovereignty and territorial integrity. Do not stand on the opposite side of the 1.4 billion Chinese people. Against this background, it has given a special meaning to the joint flight of Russian and Chinese military aircraft over the Sea of Japan on May 24th. During the May 30th to June 1st visit to Taiwan by a delegation led by U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense announced that 30 CCP aircraft had encroached on Taiwan's Southwest Air Defense Identification Zone, and that the Air Force had dispatched air patrol troops to respond, broadcast repulsions, and track and monitor missile activity. Duckworth, along with Senator John Cornyn, introduced the Taiwan Partnership Act in July 2021 to encourage the National Guard of all the states to partner with Taiwan's defense forces, and the legislation was passed in the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2022.
Last July, Senator Duckworth was one of the main sponsors of the Taiwan Partnership Act, which received bipartisan support in the U.S. Congress. As a result, the U.S. Department of Defense is now proactively planning cooperation between the U.S. National Guard and Taiwan's defense forces. Senator Duckworth also recently introduced a bill that further prioritizes Taiwan's security as part of U.S. military deployment in the Indo-Pacific region.
In mid-May, Duckworth and 51 other senators sent a joint letter to President Biden calling for Taiwan to be included in the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEF, but were unsuccessful. Biden launched the IPEF on May 23, 2022. A total of 13 Indo-Pacific countries, including the US, Japan, India, and some ASEAN countries, became the first round of funding members, accounting for about 40% of global GDP. Taiwan is on the front line of the US-China rivalry. It has an irreplaceable supply chain, and its relationship with the US is at its best with deepening economic and trade cooperation, with the support of as many as 200 US lawmakers across parties. Taiwan was expected to be included in the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, but was eventually excluded. This shows the hesitation and concerns of the Biden administration. On the other hand, Beijing has stepped up its military aggression against Taiwan. According to the Ministry of National Defense of the Republic of China, the CCP sent 38 warplanes to disturb Taiwan on October 1, 2021, 39 on October 2nd, 16 on October 3rd, 56 on October 4th, a record high number of sorties since the Ministry of National Defense of Taiwan began publishing real-time military developments. On January 23, 2022, there were 39 sorties, the highest number of sorties this year. The 30 sorties on May 30th were the second highest number in 2022. Taiwan's defense minister said on May 16, 2022, that the threat from the Chinese Communist Party has become more serious in recent years. The Communist Party's military actions have revealed its possible mode of warfare, and the Russia-Ukraine war has given countries great insight into the changing shape of modern warfare. On May 28th, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense released a video with the theme, "Stand Guard Firmly, Self-Help So Others Help," showing its determination to fight the CCP. Among the civilian population of Taiwan, the fierce resistance of the Ukrainians has also inspired the will of the Taiwanese to defend their homeland and fight for freedom. For more than 2 years now, the former Navy radar operator, Robin Shu, has made it his mission to inform Taiwan's public about the busy air encounters and meticulously keep track of such broadcasts, detailing the time, altitude, and content of the communications. He has counted 317 Taiwan warnings to Chinese warplanes from the start of the year to early May, 3% more than the same period a year earlier. From early morning until now, there have been around 5 broadcasts by the Taiwanese Air Force. From what I can currently tell from my system is that there was 1 drone, 1 Y-8 tactical jamming plane, and 1 Y-8 anti-submarine plane. All of those are essentially coming to gather electronic information of military tests and drills. His work as a tour guide has largely been on hold after the pandemic forced Taiwan to close its borders to tourists, giving Shu extra time to monitor military tests conducted by Taiwan and other movements that, according to him, attract Chinese military aircraft. He categorizes the Chinese incursions into data collection and shows of strength. For example, when the US military is operating in the region, while Taiwan's defense ministry details these almost daily incursions on its website, including maps outlining the activity. Shu has been tuning into the messages being broadcast and publishing the recordings online for all to hear. He has set up radio antennas to listen in to the broadcasts, which are then forwarded to his iPhone through a self-made server system. He also releases the recordings on a Facebook page, which has attracted nearly 16,000 followers and is widely followed by Taiwanese media. In the past, our government has continuously deceived us. They lied to us by saying that there was peace between China and Taiwan. So when I discovered that the frequency of Chinese military aircraft entering our ADIZ, Air Defense Identification Zone, kept going up, how can this be described as peace? I started to leak the situation together to some local media. With help from flight tracker apps and aviation data gathered by 12 reception points that Xu and his friends set up on hills across Taiwan, Xu is also intently tracking warplane flight routes in Taiwan's southern skies. At one of his reception points, a hilltop cafe overlooking the Taiwan Strait, Xu said he planned to expand his network to include communications in Taiwan's northern skies, where China, Japan, and Taiwan air forces regularly cross paths. Chinese aircraft have neither fired a shot nor approached Taiwan's shores, but for Taiwan, such incursions amount to an undeclared war of attrition, having to frequently scramble its aircraft to intercept Chinese jets. Taiwan's defense ministry has termed the move gray zone tactics, designed to exhaust its air defenses both physically and financially. The logistical budget of our Air Force really isn't nearly high enough. When I started revealing the situation of Chinese incursions and everyone started to pay more attention to this issue, you can see that 2 years ago, at the end of August, there was an emergency amount of 6 billion Taiwan dollars, or 202 million US dollars, added to the logistical budget. In addition to Taiwanese with military backgrounds who have become more wary of the Chinese Communist Party, many ordinary Taiwanese are also preparing for the arrival of war. From tour guides to tattoo artists, citizens in Taiwan are taking shooting lessons for the first time in their lives. China's growing military pressure on the island it claims as its own, combined with the conflict in Ukraine, has spurred debate about how to boost defenses in Taiwan, which is whether to extend compulsory military service. Since the war in Ukraine started 3 months ago, bookings have nearly quadrupled for lessons in how to shoot airsoft guns, or low-power devices designed to shoot non-metallic projectiles, said an official of a combat skills training company in Taiwan. At the moment, the number of people participating in this kind of activity in Taiwan is currently increasing. This has been already a trend in the past 2 years since Chinese fighter jets started flying close to Taiwan. There has been an increase. After the Ukraine war started, the numbers have tripled or quadrupled. More and more people are coming to take part. Some in Taiwan fear that China, which has never ruled out using force to bring the island under its control, may ramp up the pressure, taking advantage of a West distracted by efforts to support and equip Ukraine in its response to Moscow. Taiwan has raised its alert level, but has reported no unusual military movements by Beijing. Those preparing efforts against a threat from China include Su Chun, a 39-year-old tattoo artist who is determined to learn how to use air guns. I started going to airsoft classes because of the Ukraine war, because I wanted to learn some combat skills, including those that are not just limited to using a gun, maybe skills to be able to react to any kind of situation. I think that Hong Kong is a really good example. When China took back Hong Kong, they said that there would be one country, two systems, without a change for the next 50 years, but only after a few years it became apparent that I am sure that in the beginning China will use a lot of psychological warfare, saying that Taiwan can remain unchanged, but I don't believe this one bit. Hong Kong is the best example. Also, actually, I've always thought that especially in the recent situation, they will attack for sure. It's just a matter of time. It is only because of the Ukraine war that I more urgently started feeling the threat from China. Therefore, I decided to gain some deeper knowledge about these defensive weapons. In the past, before the start of the war, I was mostly interested in first aid. Between March 30th and May 10th, 2022, the Alliance of Democracies Foundation, an international nonprofit organization, and Latana, a German pollster, conducted a survey, the Democracy Perception Index, which polled 52,785 respondents in 53 countries around the world. When asked whether economic ties with China should be severed if the Chinese Communist Party invades Taiwan, a majority of people in 26 of the 53 countries surveyed, excluding China, said their countries should not maintain economic ties with China. These countries include many of China's major trading partners such as the US, Japan, South Korea, and Germany, which together account for more than 53% of China's total trade, or $2.3 trillion US. In addition, 22 countries, including China, have a positive view of the CCP, leaving 30 countries, mainly Western democracies, especially the US, European countries, Japan, and South Korea, with a negative view of the CCP. It can be speculated that during the survey period, two major events have made the international community view the CCP more negatively. First, the war between Russia and Ukraine broke out, and the CCP chose to side with the aggressor, Russia. Second, the lockdown of the economic center of China, Shanghai, has made the world see the CCP's obsession and lack of rationality. It has posed a question for the world. That is, once Beijing invades Taiwan by force, can the CCP survive the global sanctions that could come its way, as so many countries have done to Russia?